call this meeting to order. My name is Matt Pianka. I'm the chairman of the zoning board. I am here with Mr. Claude Phipps and our alternate, Mr. Hobbs, who we will be swearing in to be a part of it because our other board member, Mrs. Bianca, could not be here tonight. Before we begin, we also have our solicitors with us, the zoning administrator, Jacob, you're with us tonight, and we have Neil Grover from the city solicitor with us from the city law bureau. We also have a court reporter present. The court reporter is here because the zoning hearing board is more formal than the planning commission. The court reporter is making a transcript in the event of an appeal to the court of common pleas. The zoning hearing board is like a court of law. The zoning hearing board decisions must be based on facts and law, not on popularity or unpopularity of the project or what seems to the board to be a good or bad project. In other words, the applicant must meet a legal burden of proof that proves the elements of a variance or special exception. The law is the city's zoning code and the PA municipality's planning code. The audience members out there, everyone who resides or owns property close to the subject property and has something legally relevant to say will have an opportunity to speak. You must speak one at a time, and you must not interrupt the testimony of the someone speaking or the applicant. Okay. Mr. Pikeosh, would you explain what would happen if someone has to recuse themselves and it's two of us hearing a case and so on?
Sure. Is that on? Okay. Yeah. So if there's an instance where, since there's three members, if there's an instance where a member believes that, usually because they live close to a project, they might recuse themselves from a particular hearing, and the board is reduced down to two members. An applicant could proceed with having two members. I would just indicate that if there should be a tie vote, then it would act as a denial. So if that occurs for a particular case, the board will usually give the applicant the ability to request a continuance if they want three members to the next board, or they could proceed knowing that a tie vote would end up as a denial.
First motion that we're going to make is to make Mr. Hobbs a voting member tonight. Do I have a motion? Motion from Mr. Phipps. I second that motion, and all in favor? Aye. Mr. Hobbs, welcome to the board officially tonight. We do not have any continued cases or old business. So. Oh, we do have one. Oh, that's correct. Yeah. We do have a case to continue. This is case number 2523, a variance for 709 North 2nd Street.
We did receive a written request for a continuance on this matter to the August 15, 2022 meeting. So I'm going to mark this written request as applicant number 1, A1, so that when we continue with this hearing on the 15th, we'll have this as part of the record. So what we would need is the board to accept the continuance request and have this matter moved to the August 15, 2022 meeting.
I'll make a motion to continue number 2523 to August. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Phipps. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes. And we're going to call our first case, which will be number 2522, a variance for 916 South 18th Street for an 8-foot fence, I believe. I'm going to swear in Jacob, if you could raise your right hand, the zoning administrator. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Could you please summarize the case? I'm sorry, I've skipped a step. Sister, will you please read into the record the documents on the city file?
Okay, so I have pre-marked as exhibits for expediency's sake. Exhibit B1 is the proof of publication, notice of the time and place and particular nature of this application was advertised in the Patriot News on July 3rd and July 10th of 2022. Exhibit B2 is a letter dated July 8th, 2022 from the Deputy Planning Director to the applicant, notifying the applicant of the time and place of the hearing. Board Exhibit number 3 is the hearing notice, which was posted upon the property in question, and that was accomplished on June 29, 2022. Board Exhibit number 4, B4, is the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. Exhibit B5 is the actual application for a variance submitted on June 3rd, 2022 by the applicant. Board Exhibit number 6 are 3 photographs on 3 pages. They're photographs of the property and the proposed fencing. Board Exhibit number 7 is the deed dated March 29, 2022 between the prior owner and the applicant, 916 Industrial LLC. Board Exhibit number 8 is the Planning Bureau case report. Board Exhibit number 9 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. So, Mr. Chairman, I have Board Exhibits 1 through 9.
Thank you, sir. Jacob, I've already sworn you in, so if you could briefly summarize the case and the issues and what the city's position is on the case.
So the applicant is proposing to do a 8-foot high fence within the commercial general zoning district, which limits the maximum fence height to 6 feet. So that requires a variance. So at the Planning Commission meeting, there was pretty limited discussion on this case. Mostly in the case report, we recommend approval, looking at the context of the location of this property with residential units. So at the Planning Commission meeting, they recommended approval with the following conditions. Condition 1, the applicant shall include an elevation of the fence with the required building permit application demonstrating there is no barbed wire proposed for the top of the fence, and confirming slats will be placed on the inside of the fence. And then condition 2, the applicant shall provide a plant screening to the exterior of the proposed fencing to provide a buffer between the adjacent residential homes and the commercial uses on site and the soon to be expanded I-83 right-of-way. The Planning Bureau recommends the applicant use evergreen species in order for the plant buffer to be effective year-round. So the Planning Commission recommended approval for 2 reasons. Reason 1, the proposed fencing will not adversely impact the character of the neighborhood or impair the use of adjacent parcels. Reason 2, the additional fence height will increase the effectiveness of creating a buffer, given the property is uniquely placed between residential dwelling units and the eventual expanded I-83 right-of-way and the auto-oriented commercial uses. So I'd like to make a note as well. So the applicant originally submitted their request with the indication of having the fence just on the southern elevation of their property. So since submitting, they expanded actually their proposal to have the fence encompassing their property entirely. We still recommend approval with this revision, with the only thing for condition 2, I would ask the board to consider to have the plant buffer screening just be restricted on the southern elevation of the property, given that the northern part of the property will be facing I-83. So this is just a recommendation from that revision for the board to consider.
All right. Is the applicant, could you please state your full name, your residential address, your business title if relevant? Jacob, is his mic? Make sure the court reporter can hear you.
Henry Kornblatt, The property I own is at 916 South 18th Street, Harrisburg, 17104. My residence is in Baltimore, Maryland.
Do you spell your last name for the record?
Sure. Kornblatt, Kornblatt.
And if you could please raise your right hand to swear you into it. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Please tell us about the need for a fence and your proposed demolition.
There's selective buildings on the site which are from the 1920s, and they're antiquated buildings and they need to come down. They're about 11 to 12 feet tall, and so the fence, being 8 feet, will not reach the full height of what the buildings are, but they will also be a barrier for debris, for separation between my property and the residential properties.
Was any of your property taken in eminent domain with the 83 expansion?
No, there was some easements, but
From
no
behind.
additional property.
Okay. I was trying to visualize where it's going up against. Claude, any questions?
Can you hear me now? Thank you. The recommendation was to put fencing up on the south. I guess that's Lance Alley, that area. And was it Manamee, putting it up because that's where 83 is. So, how about 18th Street?
Say that again?
How about fencing on 18th Street? Are you?
My property is on I have a warehouse on 18th Street, so there's no need for a fence there. The warehouse is staying.
Just trying to put your way, go past her a lot.
Here's another photo if you want to borrow.
Okay, well, thank you.
Mr. Hobbs? Anything from Law Bureau? No. Are there any members of the audience that has anything? And I'm going to make a motion to approve with the conditions that were set forth in the planning resolution, along with Jacob's recommendations for the buffering plants along the south side, I think it was.
Yeah, just a southern elevation.
Southern elevation.
Along Lance Alley.
Along Lance Alley. Yes, that's a motion to approve with the conditions in the planning condition resolution for approval along with the buffering along Lance Alley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hobbs. All in favor? Aye. Motion approves.
Thank you.
I was going to bring up number 2524, a variance and special exception application for 1801 Market Street, zone residential medium density, filed by Mr. Adrian Woodman. And would the solicitor please read into the records the documents?
Mr. Chairman, what I have for the record with regard to this file is Exhibit B1, which is the proof of publication, the time and place and particular nature of this application was published in the Patriot News on July 3rd and July 10th of 2022. Exhibit B2 is the letter dated July 8, 2022 from the Deputy Planning Director to the applicant, notifying the applicant of the time and place of the hearing. Board Exhibit number 3 is the hearing notice posted upon the property, and that took place on June 29, 2022. Board Exhibit number 4 is the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. Board Exhibit number 5 is the application for a variance and special exception submitted by the applicant on June 3rd, 2022. Board Exhibit number 6 are a series of 16 photos on 4 pages of the interior and the exterior of the property in question. Board Exhibit number 7 are 2 pages of plans. Board Exhibit number 8 is the deed dated January 29, 2021 to the applicant providing for standing. Board Exhibit number 9 is the Planning Bureau case report. And Board Exhibit number 10 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. So for this file, Mr. Chairman, we have Board Exhibits 1 through 10.
Thank you, sir. Jacob, could you please?
So the applicant is requesting to establish a 2-unit multifamily dwelling use. This requires a variance from the relief from the density regulations, a special exception for the multifamily use, and a request for relief from the off-street parking requirements. So this property, in discussion at the Planning Commission, we were looking at it was actually the first floor space has been a barber shop in the past. So the applicant's looking to convert this into a multifamily dwelling unit to make the property a 2-unit dwelling. So looking at the barber shop use, there was actually a parking requirement previously for 7 off-street parking spots. So this will actually have a lesser impact. So that was part of that discussion of how this proposal will have a less impact on parking in the area. So at the Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission recommended approval with the following conditions. Condition 1, the Codes Bureau will perform a thorough inspection of the interior of the building to ascertain whether any work which established an additional unit is done in compliance with building code regulations. If they do not, the applicant must submit the necessary building permits to have the entire structure brought into compliance. Condition 2, the applicant will coordinate with the Department of Public Works to ensure that the account billing reflects the establishment of the proposed use on site. The Planning Commission recommended approval for the following reasons. Reason 1, the property has a history of existing both as a mixed-use commercial structure and a 2-unit multifamily dwelling. So if approved, the project would reestablish a former non-conforming use within a structure that is configured to accommodate multiple units. Reason 2, the proposed multifamily use would have a lesser or equal impact to the surrounding community compared to the existing legally non-conforming personal services use. To also in that reasoning, looking at city records, this property actually, before it was a barber shop, had 2 units in it even before that. So it's actually, this will not be the first time it is making the switch again.
Legally.
Legally, this will be the first time legally.
A rarity. Would the applicant please state his name, his full name, your residential address, and your business title?
My name is Adrian Woodman. The address that we're talking about is 1801 Market Street. That's Harrisburg, 17104. I live on 1436 South 13th Street, Harrisburg, PA. Same 17104.
Tell us about your project here. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to swear you in. Potty training. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please tell us about your project.
So I acquired this property in 2020 in February, and it was a barber shop and there was a tenant. Unfortunately, there was just too much issues and problems for the block for me to continue the lease. So I had to evict them, and I'll be honest, I have not had any rent since I evicted them, but I know for a fact that now, like that block, I have the whole corner. I actually have like kiddos playing outside, stuff like that before. It definitely wasn't the case. So I'd like to change it from being a barbershop to a 2-bedroom apartment.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for coming in. The barber shop that existed there, your son's setting that, so if you're granted permission to establish a multifamily dwelling there, you know, well, 4 or 5 years ago, if that doesn't work out, you're not going to, are you going to revert it back to a non-conforming business? That would be a non-conforming business.
Your question is if I would be willing to try to establish it back as a shop?
Yes.
No, this property is my wife and I's basically for our retirement, so it would continue to stay a apartment there.
I do notice that for a apartment, 1,500 feet, the required amount of spacing, and the way the building is currently set up, it doesn't meet that. So we would also have to grant exception for this.
So that density requirement is the requirement to have 1,500 square foot of lot area. So that's part of the variance, not for the apartment size.
Okay. Third, the parking. I know there's parking on Market Street, also 18th Street comes out to Market, and I think there should be parking sufficient on that side.
I would say so. My building has about 55 feet from the front curb to the rear, where I would assume that we could fit at least 5 cars.
That's all the question I have. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Hobbs?
I was just wondering, so the unit that would be converted, right, that was a barber shop, what is that spacing like in terms of square footage?
So it's probably, I would say about 925 or 925 square feet just for that space.
Okay. You said it's gonna be 2-bedroom.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the only question.
I don't have any questions. I'm going to open up the floor to the audience. Is there anybody here in the audience to speak on this case? Seeing none, I want to take a quick recess to ask our attorneys a legal question, and then we'll be right back. Just like to make a note for the record that Jacob Bowen from the city was previously sworn in from the last case and has been continued to be sworn in for this case. So that's on the. Okay. Any further questions from our board member? No. I'm going to make a motion to approve with the conditions in the planning. I'm sorry. Brain. Not working today. Motion to approve with the conditions set forth in the planning commission's resolution for approval. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Phipps. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now I will call our third, which will be a special exception application for 2307 Berry Hill Street. This is number 2525.
Hello, I need to recuse myself from this. I live in pretty close proximity to the building, so I'll be voting on this.
That's in the audience. All right, if the solicitor could please read into the record the documents. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so what we said before, Mr. Phipps had indicated that he lived very close to the subject property that you're applying for today. And as a result, it would be fair for him not to take part in this hearing. So as I indicated, if you were here in the beginning, we're down to 2 members here. So Ms. Bianca couldn't make it today. So it would be your choice. You could definitely move forward, knowing that if there would be a tie vote, it could be considered to be a denial. Or if you'd want to continue to the next meeting, do that. It's totally up to you. I just want to give that option up there to explain what would happen in that circumstance. Sure. Okay. So I'm going to mark as exhibits in this matter. Board exhibit number 1 is the proof of publication, the time and place and the particular nature of the applicant's request was published in the Patriot News on July 3rd and July 10th, 2022. B2 is a letter dated July 8, 2022 from the Deputy Planning Director to the applicant, notifying the applicant of the time and place and of the hearing. Board exhibit number 3 is the hearing notice, which was posted upon the property in question, and that occurred on June 29, 2022. Board exhibit number 4 is the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. Board exhibit number 5 is the application with attached supplement submitted on June 3rd, 2022. Board exhibit number 6 is a series of 20 photographs of the interior and exterior of the property. It's comprised of 6 pages. Board exhibit number 7 is a plan of 1 page. Board exhibit number 8 is the deed into the applicant's dated August 28, 2019. Board exhibit number 9 is the Planning Bureau case report. Board exhibit number 10 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. So, Mr. Chairman, there's board exhibits 1 through 10 for this matter.
Thank you. Just a reminder that Mr. Jacob Bowen is still sworn in from the first case. And if you could please summarize the case.
So the applicant is requesting to do an event venue space, and this is a use that's not specifically prohibited in the zoning code, and this requires a special exception in these circumstances. And also the applicant is requesting relief from the off-street parking requirements. So this is a new new request for the board here with the use not specifically prohibited. So looking at this for the off-street parking requirements, the way we determine that is to look at the use that's most similar to apply that parking requirement to the use. So we looked at the community center use and based on the applicant's business plan, it most closely aligned to that with our interpretation of what the parking requirement would be. So part of the discussion for this during the planning commission meeting, there was some discussion from neighbors nearby. They kind of learned about the case. They continue to have some concerns about potential parking effects in their area. And then also the discussion was around the nature of what the use would be, kind of differentiating between a more kind of nightclub after hours event venue space versus being more daytime, family oriented daytime use. That kind of distinction was made. So the planning commission, they recommended approval with the following conditions. Condition 1, the applicant will limit the evening hours of operation to 9 p.m. to mitigate any adverse impacts that may be generated by the proposed use to surrounding residents. Condition 2, no alcoholic beverages are to be permitted to rented events or gatherings, either as a BYOB or through a licensed caterer, to limit the space to family-oriented and professional venues appropriate within a primarily residential neighborhood. Condition 3, the applicant will coordinate with Department of Public Works to ensure that the account billing is updated to reflect the new use. Condition 4, the applicant will coordinate with the city engineer to address all existing development that encroaches into the public right-of-way. Planning Commission recommended approval for the following reasons. Reason 1, impacts from the proposed business, including traffic generation on use of the on-street parking, will be limited due to the relatively early hours of operation. Reason 2, the proposed use will be closely similar to impacts and character to by right uses such as a community center use, meeting the conditions of granting a special exception for a use not specifically prohibited. Reason 3, the request will utilize a long commercially configured property in a manner that will have minimal impacts on the surrounding residential neighborhood.
All right, thank you. If the applicants could please state their names, residential address, and their business titles.
Renata White, address is 2038 Swatera Street in Pomona.
Darrell Everett, same address, 2038 Berry Hill, 2038 Swatter.
If you could both raise your right hands. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please tell us about why you're here tonight.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you both spell your name for the court reporter?
My first name is Renata, Renada. Last name White, White. My husband's is Darrell, Darryl. Last name Everett, Everett.
Okay. And we'll let the record show that when they were sworn in, they both answered in the affirmative.
So we purchased the property in 2019 because we have a janitorial business, a cleaning business. Looked at the needs of the community. We're lifelong residents of the community on Berry Hill Street our whole lives. And then we purchased property on Swatera Street, which we lived at for many years. So because we have children and we also look at different events and church events and things like that, wanted to try to meet the needs of the community in walking distance to be able to support that and be able to host and hold events that aren't targeted towards the adult crowd or that nature. So part of the proposal, which we were trying to explain, and that's why we were in agreement of the exceptions, is the times of the events will be more daytime hours. So it'll be, we have the church group on Sunday, youth groups, arts and craft things, community cleanups, a lot of different things that will focus on the community to try to improve it, but at the same time generate some income and be able to do things that we would also like to do with our kids.
Mr. Hobbs.
Yes, question about, guess, the occupancy of the building? So how large of a crowd can you have at, events of this building?
So I requested only 50 because the ideal is to not be a full community center, to be able to limit it. So then we can do it, I'd say with the chairs and the tables, we're talking about 6-foot round and 6-foot rectangle. If they're all in comfortably, it would be 50. That's what the request was for.
Know the cutoff time based on presentation is 9 p.m. Is this gonna be open every day of the week or just certain days during the week?
Well, it would be, it's a rental, so it may not be in use every day, but the likelihood of most Saturdays would be realistic. There's some event things during the week that may be an hour or so, but they wouldn't typically be all day events.
But there would be availability. throughout the week.
Availability throughout, but I can't say exactly.
Right. That's all I have. Thank you.
How was 9 p.m. chosen? Just-
To try to limit restricting events, was having a difficult way of trying to manage that. So I figure if you tell people that their event had to end by 8 and they had to clean up and be out by 9, you would not have more interest from an adult crowd or anything like that. So it was a way more to restrict interest in crowds than have to outline it.
It
you know?
looks like you don't want weddings. That's
No, it isn't that I don't want weddings. I don't mind that, but more the receptions, the drinking, the overflow into it. And if I make so many exceptions, then it'd be very difficult just to, communicate it that way.
understood. I was doing some distance measuring. The closest house is the one right behind it, and then there's one diagonal across. It's more of an alleyway than a street, and it's basically the garage. But for the most part, any other residence is about 50 feet away from the property line. That's on South 23rd, and that's on Berry Hill. Those houses measure about 50 feet away. I was curious, and maybe Neil, you can speak to this. Is there a way to add, because noise was one of the bigger complaints at the Planning Commission, a condition about following the city's noise ordinance? And that was a 50-foot rule, if I believe, when it was passed years ago.
So, unless my memory fails me, you don't have an option.
Right.
The law is on the books, unless it just applies to the downtown. That's the question.
I think it does have an exception about where the PLCB gets
That's a
to.
different thing.
Okay.
So,
Oh, okay.
So
Then I read the wrong section of the ordinance.
The exception is PLCB, if we have a waiver from them. Our ordinance applies and not the state. My question is, I had to look and see whether it applies in all zone. The noise ordinance. It applies to most residential neighborhoods.
Right, and I was just kind of bringing it up because of what everybody was talking about at the planning commission. So I read through the notes, it seems to be parking and noise. And that, so I was just trying to.
I would leave it to the solicitor of the board, but generally you don't have to add a condition to follow the law. So,
Which makes sense now that you've said it out loud. So,
yes.
yeah. So I just trying to thread the needle there.
We did follow up with the neighbors that attended the previous meeting, just to touch base with anybody else who had come over and expressed interest or, tried to be involved with it, just to specifically address their concerns and understand what, any issues that they may have had with it. A lot of it was around, if it was going to be later hours. So once we discussed like the outline and the plan and specifics of different things, we talked to them in great detail following the meeting on different things that we were interested in, what we would pursue if it was approved. And there was no challenges to that. They were understood. And then the parking concerns, Jacob, Bo, and I, we've discussed it briefly, just needed a clear understanding on what the restrictions or the guidelines were, because 23rd Street, the parking spaces along 23rd and Berry Hill weren't counted in our request, because it was looked at as there was potentially where the sidewalk would be, but there's no sidewalk that exists on that side of the street, period, on 23rd Street to Brookwood. So that was highlighted. There's also on Adrian Street and on 23rd and Benton, there's fields that we can look at as potentially, but the intent of the use is to target the neighborhood in more events so that they will likely walk,
Right.
like we're located in proximity towards a lot of schools. There's not any playgrounds other than that are at the schools. So the target is the neighborhood and the community.
I'm going to open the floor to the audience. If there are any audience members here who would like to speak on this case. Okay. Jacob, anything else?
Add,
You guys
no.
have any? Good. I'm going to make a motion to approve with the conditions that were in the planning missions resolution for approval. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
I can come back. Next case is going to be 2526, which is 1017 Mcclay Street. Spot out there? Welcome back, Mr. Phipps. Will the solicitor please read in the record the documents that are on the 6th file?
Sure. So for this application, number 2526, 1017 Mcclay Street, the exhibits that I will mark include Exhibit B1, which is the proof of publication, the time and place and the particular nature of this application was published in the Patriot News on July 3rd and July 10 of 2022. Board Exhibit number 2 is a letter dated July 8, 2022. This was authored by the Deputy Planning Director to the applicant, notifying the applicant of the time and place of the hearing. Board Exhibit number 3 is the hearing notice that was posted upon the property in question, and that occurred on June 29, 2022. Board Exhibit number 4 is the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. Board Exhibit number 5 is the application for a variance with the attached narrative submitted on June 3rd, 2022. Board Exhibit number 6 are 3 photos of the interior of the property and overhead parcel view. They're contained on 3 pages. Board Exhibit number 7 are plans, in which there are 8 pages of them. Board Exhibit number 8 is the deed dated July 22nd, 2019, giving title to the applicant. Board Exhibit number 9 is the memorandum of Wesley Heisley, PE, Project Director of the Office of the City Engineer, to the Deputy Planning Director, dated July 6, 2022, regarding applicant's variance application. Board Exhibit number 10 is the Planning Bureau case report. And Board Exhibit number 11 is the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution. So, Mr. Chairman, I have in this case Board Exhibits 1 through 11.
Mr. Bowen, I will note that you're still sworn in from the previous case. Could you please?
So the applicant is proposing to do a place of worship. And because this is in the industrial zoning district, a variance is required since it's not an approved use. So at the planning commission meeting, there was some discussion regarding some of the traffic flow concerns, considering that this is going to be a fairly large church. A lot of people are going to be going in at once, leaving at once. So I did reach out, as a solicitor noted, to Dalwood Engineering, did coordinate with them to kind of review this. So we saw that some of this could potentially be mitigated, being that there's another point of egress off of Julia Street, not just from Mcclay Street. And as we go over the conditions, part of that is they're going to have to coordinate with Dalwood to address any potential concerns regarding signage, pedestrian safety, and traffic flow. So at the planning commission meeting, they recommended approval with the following conditions. The applicant shall coordinate with the Department of City Engineer to determine signage and other traffic mitigation methods to address traffic flow and any potential spillover into the adjacent public right-of-ways. Condition 2, the applicant shall coordinate with the city's floodplain administrator to remove the unpermitted block wall located entirely within the Paxton Creek floodway at the rear of the property, bringing the site into conformance with FEMA regulations. Condition 3, the applicant will provide a dedicated pedestrian space of at least 4 feet in width within the western off-street parking area to remove potential conflict points between pedestrians and vehicles. Condition 4, the applicant shall remove the marked on-street parking spaces along the public right-of-way of Julia Street to distinguish available on-street parking as public and to encourage parishioners to use the available off-street parking at the project site. Condition 5, the applicant will coordinate with Department of Public Works to ensure the account billing reflects the establishment of the proposed use on site. Planning Commission recommends approval for the following reasons. Reason 1, the proposed use would reactivate and adaptively reuse a long vacant portion of a structure within a highly visible location across from the PA Farm Show complex. Reason 2, the subject property demonstrates various forms of physical hardship that contribute to challenges to redevelop the property within strict conformity of the zoning code. Reason 3, approval of the proposal will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, given the property is adjacent to commercial and institutional uses, and the project site will be able to accommodate the additional off-street parking demand.
Thank you. The applicant could please state your names and your addresses.
Charles Farrell, Farrell, 1349 Quail Hollow Road, Harrisburg, PA, 17112,
And your business title if relevant.
owner.
If you could both raise your right hands. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please tell us about your application, your case here.
Again, my name is Esh McCombie. I'm an attorney with McNeese. We represent PEG Commercial, their property at 1017-1033 Clay Street. With me this evening from PEG Commercial are Chuck and Dee Farrell, sitting to my right. Before we get started, I'm going to hand out an exhibit packet. So before the zoning hearing board is an application for a variance to use.
Give
a
me
portion-
1 second. Do you want to add that as an exhibit, please?
We'll go through them individually and I'll offer to admit them at the end if that's preferable or.
Yeah, but as we go through, let's label each one
They'll be marked individually.
A1, A2, or wait.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So again, we're here for a variance for a portion of 1017-1033 Mcclay Street as a place of worship for Winners Chapel International, Harrisburg. As Jacob mentioned earlier, the Planning Commission recommended approval at its meeting earlier this month. The building was constructed in the 1940s and has a dual character and design. And as you'll see, the dual character and the transition it creates is consistent with the neighborhood and the transition from institutional to commercial, institutional and commercial to industrial. Front Mcclay Street side of the building consists of 2 stories, has more of a commercial or institutional design and character to it. This is the portion that will predominantly be used by the church. The rear portion of the building comparatively is more has a warehouse feel, industrial feel and design and character. But again, most of the building and in particular, the front portion that we're here speaking about tonight has been vacant for longer than a decade, despite efforts to market the property. I only have one witness this evening, and he will work through the table of exhibits. The first one that is on that list is the variance application, but the solicitor already has that in as the board's exhibit 5. We'll scratch that one.
Yep, or B5.
Chuck, could you please state your name and business address again for the record?
So it's Chuck Farrell. I'm the owner of the property, 103. It's actually 1017-1033 Mcclay is the correct address for the property.
What's your position or role with PEG?
CEO, owner, property owner.
As PEG Commercial owned the property we are discussing for approximately 3 years.
Yes, sir, since July of 2019.
As the front portion of the commercial institutional section been vacant during your entire period of ownership?
Yes,
To your knowledge, was the portion of the building vacant for several years before you acquired the property?
yes, I was a tenant in there for 4 years, 5 years before, and as a tenant, there was never anyone in there.
Given the front of the building has remained vacant for a decade despite being marked, in your opinion, that the requested variance is then necessary?
Yes,
Grab the exhibit packet and turn to the first page being a table of contents. If you turn to the second page, we'll label that as exhibit A1. What is that?
well, as it's an aerial view looking down, as one can see, the farm show is all in the light blue and they're right across the street. Farm show is many activities. Our building is the one that is encased with the blue outline, and it sits right across the street from the Mcclay Street lobby entrance to the farm show.
You're at the intersection of Mcclay Street and Julia, just down from Cameron.
Correct.
And is that parcel approximately 3 acres?
Yes.
In your opinion, is this a transitional area of the city?
Yes. To the left of us is R&M Variety. They're like an Ollie's. And they have large retail outfit there. To the right of us is empty, a vacant building and then to the rear of that, so directly to our east is a vacant standalone building, and then right behind them is a garage. Works on all sorts of vehicles, including ours occasionally. And then to the right of that, towards Cameron Street, is of course the Burger King on the corner and Popeyes adjacent to that.
So then across the street from you, you've got the
Correct.
that zoned institution.
Correct.
Properties.
Correct.
So it kind of is transitioning this area then from that institutional feel, parks on the other side of Cameron. Commercial spaces in the area.
Correct.
So in your opinion, does the dual character match the area that the property is at?
Absolutely. I mean, doing my research on the property, it was a showroom for Harvest Tractor originally, back in the 100 years ago, not quite 100, long time ago. And there was a barber shop in there a little while. And ever since then, which is over 10 years, there's been nothing in there. And it's a big, deep showroom type of room. We've dumped a lot of money into the front facade of the building, renovating it, putting in piers that are 5 feet by 13 feet, which we got a permit for, of course, and new glass, double pane glass, and bringing everything up to code and doing it right. So we're trying to fix up the place.
Turn to the next page.
Sure.
Label this exhibit A2 applicant. What is
So it's a closer view of the building. You see Mcclay Street to the left side. And I guess the grade in area that shows the second floor is the area that the church would be occupying, roughly 16,000 square feet. Two-story right there. The back of the building is where the warehouse kicks in, right? That's strictly dead storage for RMS and others. And it's a big back lot. And the side, we are also owners of a production company that does called PA Entertainment Group. And so we do work for the city and others for the farm show, as a matter of fact. And right portion of this 77,000 square foot building is where we live. I started that after my police world ended, my police job, retired from Lower Paxton, and we had this 11,000 square foot space inside the same building.
So the building is approximately 77,000 square feet.
Correct.
Sure. Small rectangular portion.
Correct.
As a point of clarification, you could mention that it's great. Church portion actually front rectangle.
Well, the front rectangle, and then off the back of the first floor, there's a 2,800 square foot area that they're also going to occupy for storage of tables and chairs and like a quasi kitchen. So we're putting in a sink.
What other aspects of a warehouse does loading docks?
Is loading docks and lots of spaces. Have a map that we drew up, showed back there, 90 spaces back there, I guess.
Can you talk a little bit about access?
Well, there's a 30-foot gate with an operator with a, it opens automatically when you drive up to the gate. It secures right onto Julia Street. And it's, like I said, 30 feet wide, so it allows access. And the church obviously would be able to go out that way as well.
And the other access point?
Is the front off of Mcclay Street. And that's been widened. We have that at 15 feet, I think, is the width of the gate leaving. And that's also an automatic gate, opens and closes.
Now, you mentioned parking in the church. Talk a little bit about the parking for the property and space.
Well, it's best to probably jump to a different exhibit if you want to do that. And I could jump to.
Let's keep it in.
We'll keep it in this, okay?
For now, just generally.
So, okay, if you're looking at the front of the building, there's a corner on each corner of the building, front corner, there's spaces available. We've taken away the front entrance that used to be facing Mcclay Street because it's an entrance to where it's a showroom for whom. And so we took that away and we put it on the side it would be the west side of the building, the west front. So that's going to be a double door into the building with a vestibule, glass vestibule, and that's under construction now.
And so then looking at this overall area, we see some. Am I correct that there's approximately 150 on-street parking spaces?
Correct, that's conservative, yes.
And we'll get into the hours of the church. Like, generally speaking, the church's use of the property is not going to
With anyone now.
No. Next page. A3.
Okay.
What are these?
Well, view from Mcclay Street is obviously an old picture of the front of our building. You see a series of white doors. They are no longer there. There used to be, the previous owner had stake in central stake garage door. So whenever a window would break out, he put a garage door in its place, which is just lovely. So we took all that down and put in contemporary glass with facade and cutting down the amount of glass that one sees for heat and privacy across the entire front of the building. Remove the steps, all that's gone, and there's a landscape wall that's going to be being erected across the front of the building.
And so that first picture that on a 2 stories, it's
Correct.
50% of more glass.
Correct.
That kind of shows the.
Correct.
What about the other 3?
So the picture to the right of that view looking to the west is Julia Street. That's standing on Julia Street looking at loading docks for the other, the business fee in our back, the warehouse space. Currently unused. Again, another place has to be fixed up. It's available for them to park. The church can park there as well.
Jacob had mentioned removing condition number 2.
It's not, no, it's not pictured here. It's in the back. And it was a series of these movable blocks that we put up to stop some of the mud from coming into our back parking lot. So we removed those and put them away.
So you complied with that condition?
Yes.
Already. Sure. I think this might have been the one referring to.
This is one of them. So you can see there's about 10 spaces to the right side of the building. You're staying on Mcclay Street, right front, another 5 to the left side. That is all dedicated to the church exclusively for their use.
That parking on the right, is that where the ADA is?
Yes, both sides if necessary, but we have them outlined on another exhibit.
And then on the right side.
Yes, the right side is where the new door is. So there are going to be a few parking handicap spaces on this side. I believe it's 3 on the right side. And
Turn to the next page. This would be A5, 5. Two photographs.
just inside of the first floor, looking out with the new piers, we have dusk to dawn lights on the outside of the building and on the inside of the building. And there's just an open floor concept where you see it's us in the middle of trying to clean it up, make it look a little nicer, throw some paint on the walls and fix it up.
I noticed there are no garage doors.
No, there's gonna be no garage doors to this. There used to be garage door, and you can still see on the first picture on the far side, there is a glass type of garage door, which is going to be the entrance, the main entrance, double doors. And that's going away. So that in this diagram has not been done yet. Weaver's Glass is under contract to do all that, and they are doing it almost as we speak.
And then the second picture then is the view
It
from
is. And it shows another exit, two exit doors going out to a ramp that goes down to Julia Street.
Well, this is A6. 2 pages, if you could walk the board through what they're looking
Okay, so this one is the first floor. It's my drawing, so don't be critical of me. But you see the kitchen ready space is in the back. That's the 2,800 square foot. There are stalls back there, 4 stalls, individual stalls with toilets, and then another bathroom right next to it with 1 toilet, 1 urinal, and a sink. There are double doors into that kitchen space. And then if you look at the first the sanctuary space itself, you'll see that there's a bathroom on the left side. That would be the east side corner with a toilet and a sink. And to the right side, there were 2 bathrooms, each with toilets and sinks, separate. Okay. Next page is second floor, and that has bathrooms on the left side. The pastor has his office on the far left. He'll have his own bathroom. And then there's another public bathroom, which is indicated on this diagram. And then on the right side, which would be the west end of the building, that's the kids section. And so there were multiple bathrooms going in there. There were individual bathrooms, 2 individual bathrooms, and then a third bathroom will have 3 toilets in it with sinks. But you also see a choir room in there, and you see there's 2 ways down. There's the staircase on the right top, which goes down a brick encased stairwell. And then there's the main steps that go up in the middle, but are not indicated on this drawing.
Let's briefly touch on the church operation earlier. How large is the congregation?
I think it's like 120 to 160, depending on the day.
And what's the goal?
I think they want to get up to at least 200 is what they're working towards. And I have a nickel bet with the Dr. Daly over there about growing the church and how fast they're growing. But it's a great group of people, and they are in a very small space in the city as well right now, and they're looking very anxious to get.
What are the hours of service?
Well, I think it's 9 to 11, 9 to 11:30, something like that, on Sundays. And Sundays is a very quiet time for most part for Mcclay Street.
And then on Wednesdays, 6 p.m.
Yes, they have another evening service at that time.
You mentioned it earlier, but since we're talking about it, those hours coincide with business hours, storage uses.
No, the storage uses are dead storage in the back, and it's a Monday through Friday deal till 3 o'clock. And our places are, which are on the next exhibit, are indicated, our spaces for our 3 trucks, or our few trucks, are 3 big ones, 4 big ones, excuse me. And they're straight trucks. When I say big, that's what I mean.
You're talking about
For production, for PEG, has 3 loading docks on the side, and our operations are out of the area, outside of the, yes.
Are any site changes contemplated other than the ones shown in the applications?
No,
Have you read the application in there that was submitted?
yes,
To the extent that we offer comments from my comments earlier.
yes,
Have you reviewed the planning bureau's case report and filed those conditions?
yes,
Condition number 1 requires that you coordinate with the office of the city engineer.
yes, on July 9th with Veronica Lefevre.
Turn to the next page. Call that exhibit A7.
Okay.
What is that and how did it?
On July 9th, I met with Veronica on site. We were there for about an hour and a half going over the parking spaces and recommendations she had for the parking. And they were indicated, I drew that up at the time. And here are the spaces that she suggested I do and the distances. She wanted 8 feet between parking spaces. I thought that was too tight, so I moved it to 8.5, 8.5 feet per space. There were behind the spaces, I needed 4 feet. I have 49 feet behind the spaces where people will park. The yellow indicates areas where we'll block out with yellow, all yellow paint. And we have that under contract with GE Demo, and they're doing it. They were out today And it's too wet to paint today, so they're painting tomorrow. The entire lot has a fresh seal coat on it, so we did that last couple of days, so it's gonna work well for the paint.
So this
Um,
parking plan that came out of the conversation. that the city
With-
engineers
yes.
and Their
Yep.
recommendations.
Yep.
That yellow area, that is for the peak.
Yes. When they're there, and their spaces will be open for the church when we're not there. And a lot of our work is out of town. So when we're gone, you'll be able to use it.
And so when this striping is done, this will show approximately 150.
Yes,
on-
there's parking in the back. There's a mid gate in the back, which opens up the whole back of the parking area. And there's space back there.
Condition number 2 requires that you coordinate with the city's floodplain administrator. Wall, you already testified that wall.
Yes,
Condition number 3, is that you provide a dedicated pedestrian space. I believe you are providing closer to 40 or 50 feet at bottom of the.
correct.
That would be the area below the yellow.
Correct. Low from the edge of the parking space, white lines of the parking space away from the building.
Condition number 4 requires that you remove the marked orange. Talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
the previous owner put up unauthorized, illegal handicap signs on the side of this building, and we cut them off.
Condition number 5 requires that you coordinate with the Department of Works to ensure. Willing to do that?
Yes, yes, yeah.
And then the last exhibit. Next page, and that would be the A8. Applicant 8. 1, 2, 3, 5 pages. What is that?
The petition in support of the variance application from the church, from the folks at Winners Chapel. And they completed this and submitted it to me and to you, board for review.
Am I correct that there are approximately 58 signatures? And 2 of those are duplicates?
Correct, yes.
Am I also correct then that approximately half the remaining, while the other signatures are not?
Yes.
That, Mr. Solicitor, I'd like to admit exhibits A1. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
They'll be admitted.
Any questions?
So I know there is a plan for traffic flow right off of, even off of Mcclay. Any thoughts around or if it's like just the area sometimes. Any thoughts about the best way that that can be handled by the church?
Well, most people, I mean, the church is from 9 to 11:30 and they take precedence. So we'll just, they're blocked off. And the farm show people are more arriving at that time and the church is letting out. People are so they're leaving, they're coming. It's not going to be a big, I don't foresee it to be a big problem, especially with the back exit on Julie Street. So we just send everyone out Julie Street. And then they have multiple ways to get to Cameron, from Mcclay, through Minnick, through Delaware, through multiple streets.
There's a representative.
The director is here.
Chuck and she have a good relationship. Those timing issues.
The parking lot. That's when I was in the National Harvester Building, and then a beauty shop, a beauty, was a lot of different business in there. Okay. The layout of the parking lot, how are you handling stormwater runoff? And is the parking lot, how is it going to be constructed? It's going to be porous enough that the water can sink down?
It's all
Or
existing.
Asphalt existing.
it's
So it comes
asphalt?
right out to Mcclay Street, and right down Julie Street.
There are no improvements proposed, parking lot and everything.
Have you any conversations with Capital Region about that? Because that's the floodplain, but I think we're all looking in the city at any given time. A bad thunderstorm will flood that area out.
Yeah, and those have been the conditions for however many years.
Yes, the businesses went out.
Yeah, and so I don't think the applicant's in a position to start tearing things out. We also have to comply with the requirements. But it's certainly a conversation that we can take into account. But to the extent it's tearing out asphalt,
Jacob, the floodplain administrator, did they look this over at all, or?
Yes, Jeffrey Knight, the planning director, he is the floodplain administrator. And he actually recommended to the planning commission for the roof of that block wall actually there. It actually, it went the whole length of the property, potentially acting as a dam. So actually removing that will help mitigate more larger flood events, it being in a floodway, which is actually even worse than a 100-year floodplain. So he's still actually coordinating with the applicants now with that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Just circle back on your traffic comment. Well, you know, another thought that I had, a lot of the uses that are permitted in the zone condition, those are really the ones that are going to overlap with the busy times of day. So with church use, you're able to avoid some of that.
Well, I was more concerned about the events that they have at the farm show. You know, some of those events they started arriving at 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, on a
Right.
Sunday morning. And
Right.
again, you're saying Sunday, it's really Sunday and Wednesday in between, and you can manage that, but you provided different entry points to
Right.
this, and that'll help alleviate a lot.
My point was just that the commercial retail every day of the week versus a church where you only have it twice a week.
Thank you.
So the city has 9 zoning districts total, and only 2 of them do not permit places of worship. And I'm going to direct my first question. This is one of them. And so it's a heavy lift to ask for a variance for a not permitted use. And so my first question, I think, is to Jacob is, in your studies, is there a reason places of worship are not put in industrial areas? And do we know why the city does not allow places of worship by right in industrial zones?
I don't know the rationale for when our current zoning code, why they put that, but I can assume with my professional opinion, part of that would likely be more industrial nature, tractor trailers, things like that, mixing with a lot of parishioners that would be with this traffic, and also noxious uses that could be emitted nearby. I'm alluding that would be probably part of the rationale why it's not permitted in the industrial zoning district.
Correct me if I'm wrong, consolidated scrap is not that far away from this.
1,000. Lovely.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Mr. Beyond. Got the institutional farm show complex across the street. On the other side of Cameron, you have green space and rec space. And so, yes, while it is institutional, it's on the very edge and it's surrounded by a number of uses that are retail and commercial in nature. So it doesn't really have that industrial deep feel. You're kind of transitioning from institutional into industrial.
There's at least, is it just your company in the building now, or there's your company and a storage company? I was a little confused.
RMS, which is the first business company. That's
At least 2 years. Go ahead.
Again, this is going to go back to what Jacob's saying about Cameron Street. That was an industrial zone. Noxious businesses existed, therefore, I think they still exist there to a certain point. I want to talk a little about the comp plan, because I know the comp plan addresses Cameron Street, addresses part of Mcclay Street. Have you guys looked over any of that as it may apply towards you?
We have not looked at revising or amending the comp plan or amendment to amend the zoning ordinance. No. But you know, I think it is interesting, without having the comp plan in front of me, that right across the street on Cameron Street is the open space recreation designation, the zoning district, open space recreation, with the intent of that district being a place where people can hang out and enjoy the outdoors. And it abuts the industrial zoning district as shown on the Planning Bureau's plan. So I think, at least in my opinion, the city is saying it's okay for people to be outside and enjoying time and recreation next to an industrial zone. And to me, that it should seem like there shouldn't be a problem with them being inside of a church within 1 acre.
Well, I was thinking,
That's not quite a park there, though. That's,
But I'm talking about the
You'll see.
zoning district.
I understand.
Yeah.
but I was thinking more of the Cameron Street plan. Basically, a lot of the industry that's there, dirty industry, what's left, trying to phase that out, move it out of that area and get that cleaned up. How would you fit with that? I think a church maybe it changes the area of where it's quasi industrial.
best I can, one day at a time.
And I would note to that point, looking at the comp plan, long-term visions, the proximity to Paxton Creek. We're in the preliminary stage of the Paxton Creek project, where we're looking at actually de-channelize the Paxton Creek and make that more of a recreational area. So hopefully down the line, like you're saying, that we can sort of transition to different uses in that area.
Mitigate some of the stormwater runoff issues that could occur. Okay.
And our current zoning code doesn't reflect our current comp plan, which was just passed in the past year. So,
But I believe Consolidated Scrap uses Juliana Street with their trucks.
They do. Monday through Friday.
And you have the said an auto body shop right next to you too, and then the variety store that rents U-Hauls.
They're on the other side.
On the
yeah.
other side.
And they go right out on the Mcclay Street from their parking lot.
And what's right out behind you? Again, there was a lot to take in.
Behind me?
Yeah,
is
right
just-
behind
just
you.
a lot, and a mulch company is back, mulching part of the, do mulching, they make mulch. And then behind that is, keep going, it's Consolidated.
I'm going to open up the floor to members of the audience. If anybody would like to speak on this? I'll start with anybody to my right. Please state your name.
My name is Andrew Segale, Okayo Segale. I was the lead.
Could you please spell that?
Spell your name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew, Andrew. Last name Osegale, Osegale. All right. So yes, I was the lead minister of Winners Chapel International, the church that's trying to take move over to this new location until we now have a full-time resident pastor. So the church has grown over the years. It started in 2013, and now the congregation has increased, as Chuck rightfully said. We've been a part of the community for all that time. Right now, where we currently are located is opposite the Governor's Plaza, very close to the location that we're looking at. So we've not been a nuisance or a problem to the city. We've been a positive addition to the city. We're constantly reaching out to the community. We're usually on 13th and Dairy every Saturday, reaching out to the people, charitable acts in the city there. And we're trying to have a bigger presence where we currently are located. And that's why we're excited about this prospect of moving to this new location. The church is growing, and we're looking forward to this new location. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Dele Omije, Dele. Last name is Omije. I'm a physician in the community, and I'm also a deacon in the church. So we think that the addition of this church in the community will be a good service to us. We are trying to help our youths around the community to get out of the streets. That's part of our outreach on Saturdays, and we do that every day. We're also trying to help those that need rehabilitation from drug and alcohol. We're also helping them as well, outside of impacting them from the Word of God. So I also have some letters from community members, support letters of support. So I don't know if I can submit those. So I think giving us the opportunity to remain in the community will be of good service to the community, especially in these times where we have a lot of suicide in the community, where we are going through a lot of depression. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to mark, there's 8 letters here. I'm going to just mark them as a pack. C1.
Anyone else from the audience?
Good evening. I'm Sharon Myers, Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex and Expo Center. First, just want to say a huge thanks to Chuck and family for improving the neighborhood. It's much needed, and we really appreciate it. Secondly, just to say a couple of the conversations that Chuck and I have had in advance address the same issues you all had, parking, traffic, that type of thing. Based on a 200-person congregation at 2.5 people per car, you're only looking at 80 cars. We have 3,500 parking spaces on site. 80 cars is nothing for us. We use Industrial Boulevard as our main entrance, so that's where our traffic exists, not necessarily on Mcclay. Although we do have some traffic on Mcclay, but they're pass holders only. So again, I really don't see this as an issue. And we'll just welcome this group to the neighborhood.
Anyone else from the audience? I'm going to take a quick recess. Talk with our attorneys. First. right, I'm going to bring us back. Anyone have any other comments, questions, concerns? All right, then I will make the motion to approve with the conditions in the Planning Commission's resolution for approval. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Hobbs. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, it's going to bring up our last case for the evening, and maybe Mr. Bowen will get something to eat then. This is case number 2527, a variance and special exception applications for 29 North 2nd Street, known downtown center. Jacob, did you get anything to eat today?
So don't have high expectations.
Right. Will the solicitor please read into record the documents?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is for application number 2527, 29 North 2nd Street. I have marked as exhibits, board exhibit number 1, a proof of publication. The time and place and the particular nature of this application was published in the Patriot News on July 3rd and July 10th, 2022. Board exhibit number 2 is the hearing notice, which was posted upon the property in question that occurred on June 29, 2022. Board exhibit number 3 is a letter dated July 8, 2022, sent from the Deputy Planning Director to the applicant, notifying the applicant of the time and place of the hearing. Board exhibit number 4 is the applicant's notification letter and certificate of mailing to the required neighbors. Board exhibit number 5 is the actual application for a variance and special exception with the attached business description plan submitted on June 3rd, 2022. Board exhibit number 5 are 5 photographs of the interior of the property. That's board exhibit number 6, and that's comprised of 5 pages. Board exhibit number 7 are 2 pages of plans. Board exhibit number 8 is a copy of Pennsylvania Statute 4-406, sales by liquor licenses and restrictions. Board exhibit number 9 is the dwelling unit 500-foot buffer map, which is 2 pages. Board exhibit number 10 is the deed dated June 25, 2019 into LNC Holdings LLC. Board exhibit number 11 is the lease agreement dated June 5th, 2022 between the landlord LNC Holdings and the applicant. Board exhibit number 12 is the Planning Bureau case report. Board exhibit number 13 is a resolution of the City of Harrisburg Planning Commission. Board exhibit number 14 is a letter of opposition to the application for variance, which was submitted to Jeffrey Knight, dated July 11, 2022. Was executed by 7 organizations that own or manage properties along North 2nd Street. So there are the exhibits that we have, board exhibits number 1, B1 through B14.
Thank you, sir. And just a reminder, Jacob is still sworn in. And could you please summarize the case?
So the applicant is requesting to do a nightclub or dance hall use in the downtown center zoning district, which requires a special exception for a use and relief from the specific criteria of section 7-309.2 DD of the zoning code, which requires that a nightclub or dance hall use not be located within 500 feet of a dwelling unit. As part of the discussion at the Planning Commission meeting, there were some concerns regarding safety, particularly in the nature that the use, the applicant does not intend to have a liquor license associated with the use. Rather, they're intending to have an off-premise liquor license caterers at the events. And some of this concern also regarded around the feasibility of this model, given the restrictions of off-premise liquor licenses. So the planning commission recommended that the requests be approved with the following conditions. All alcohol sales on site require the issuance of a liquor license granted from the PLCB, in which the applicant or hired caterer services must conform to all applicable rules and restrictions associated with such license. Condition 2, off-premise alcohol, including BYOB activities, shall not be permitted on site without the authorization of a BYOB permit from the city and approval of a BYOB club use from the zoning hearing board. Any unauthorized alcohol sales or BYOB activities, either directly or indirectly by the applicant, will result in the immediate revocation of any mercantile license associated with unauthorized activities. Condition 3, the applicant shall submit a sidewalk use permit for any proposed seating or other uses that may occupy the public sidewalk. Condition 4, the applicant must conform to the provisions of Chapter 3-343 of the City Code related to noise control and abatement. Condition 5, the applicant will limit the hours of operation to 1 a.m. to mitigate any adverse impacts that may be generated by the proposed use to the downtown neighborhood. Planning Commission recommended approval for the following reasons. The proposed nightclub or dance hall use would be compatible with the surrounding community, which features a high concentration of bars and restaurants that operate during late hours. Reason 2, impacts of the community would be mitigated, particularly in comparison to other nearby bar and restaurant uses, through compliance with the PLCB off-premise catering permit regulations, which restrict the frequency and hours of operation for catered functions serving alcohol. Reason 3, the applicant intends to host only private events that are not open to the general public, which will likely address some security concerns related to the proposed use.
Thank you. Could the applicant please state his name, residential address, and business title, please?
My name is Stephen Detweiler. I reside at 5116 Earl Drive, Harrisburg, PA 17112, and I am the tenant of the property.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please tell us about your proposed.
So basically, I want to open up a type of membership-only club, not open to the public, kind of like a place where people are similar with each other instead of, having outsiders or out-of-staters. That is, typically what goes on in the bars downtown. I'd like to have my own, company. So with that, a liquor license is $180,000. So I went ahead with the catering service for the liability and stuff like that for at least the first few years to get me open, to be able to make some kind of revenue to pay my rent and stuff like that. I plan on doing some CDL programming during the daytimes, Monday through Thursday, to help some of the work release centers in Pennsylvania, and also people who are trying to get CDL licenses practice and be mentored to get that. And we basically want to open up at night, have a place where people can come that are members and they can have a good time safely. Security, stuff like that is going to be on A1 status. And basically everything around us is basically, clubs and stuff like that as well. So we will be kind of fit right in. The only thing about us is we'll be private. I won't be open to the public, and, violence, stuff like that occurs usually from out-of-staters and stuff like that. These people will know each other on the membership. So when it comes down to it, it's basically a good spot to go, to have an outing and know everybody. And it's something different than Harrisburg doesn't have. Everybody does the public, but mine is more like a membership only. So it's kind of like a special citizen request for the people that are in the area. We plan on doing, like community bingo, stop the violence. I have a banner up right now out front of the storefront now for Stop the Violence, because we want to have meetings and stuff like that. I already spoke with Wanda Williams about hosting some things there for, after activities to get, kind of everybody on the same page of stopping the violence, starting with my building down from 2nd Street. I like that I'm the first place on Second Street that is kind of a establishment because of the fact that I kind of want to put Harrisburg on my back and, take over with a few more businesses with horseback riding and paintballing and stuff like that, bringing good things to the city other than drugs and guns. I want to help the unfortunate get jobs with a 5-mile radius job compliance interview so they can get day-to-day jobs, dishwashers, stuff like that in the city and around the city with a application. That's all it's going to take.
Okay. Who owns the catering company?
I have a few catering companies that I'm waiting on basically an approval to work with. I have a few on the list. I don't know if you heard of a Joe Mama's Pizza. Her name is Jenny. She's been in business for 24 years. She's one of them. I have Jennifer Ruel. She's one of them as well. She works with the Susquehanna River boat. She does all the catering for the boats for them and the UPS workers here in Harrisburg at the 17th Street location for UPS. And I also have 2 others on standby, but I should not give their information yet until things are,
So no liquor license, and this wouldn't be BYOB, right?
No. I don't want people, basically, I don't want to do BYOB. I was explaining to Jacob because of the fact that I don't want one person to be able to bring in an entire bottle of Hennessy and, get out of hand or allow other people without a proportion consumption to get out of hand. If this is more of a proportion, the liquor caterers are basically going to be on hand with the proportions that everyone's consuming so that there is no red flags or slip ups. This is my first business down here.
Mr. Ellis? All right.
Yeah, so what days of the week are you operating? Is it every day? Is it certain days?
The dance hall / membership club that I want to do is going to be Monday through Saturday, probably around 6 to 1 a.m. And then Sundays for holidays. That's up in the air for just holidays. And then Monday through Thursday, I want to use the property basically for a more like meetings and stuff like that. Stop the violence. I had a family member that was murdered 2 years ago through violence, and had one just 2 months ago that just happened. And I want to put an end to it. I'm tired of basically everybody, killing each other and stuff like that. So if I can remind people to do the best thing and, host bingo nights and stuff like that to kind of get people to realize that, to remind them, how good of a city Harrisburg really is. I would love to be the one to do that.
So those, what would be the hours for those types of events?
That has yet to be discovered.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be Monday. The times have yet to be discovered.
Okay. And so membership, how do you envision the membership working? Is it just anyone that wants to join, or is there any criteria?
There's no criteria. Anyone that wants to join, basically, they'll pay in the beginning of the month, and then it will go through the 30 days or 31 days. And then basically they are a member, which means they don't have to pay or anything to get in. They're on the list. So if, let's say, Bob has a problem with Paul and Bob calls and asks if Paul is on the membership already, he would be, already told basically that, there might be a problem here. That's my kind of point, is so people can know who's in the club and who's not, so that there's no altercations or anything like that, and it's more settled and safe.
Right. You said this is the first time that
Yes, but my mentor, Michael Lamb, he is the owner of the building. He owns 4 or 5 buildings downtown Harrisburg. So he's my mentor, and he already has me basically, helping me out and keeping me under his wing.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. I always ask this, when the businesses are opening up in a area with neighbors. Have you reached out to the other businesses in the area? Have you reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and talked to them about your proposed opening up a business there?
Basically, you mean Second Street?
Yeah, Second
I
Street.
mean, I basically did my look arounds and stuff like that. I sent out all the letters and stuff like certified letters and everything. I'm in between Ron's establishments. Ron over here, he has the Bourbon and the Odyssey nightclub. I'm in between, two clubs, two basically bars and nightclubs. So I really, don't really see what kind of negativity, someone could bring. There's nothing but, parking lots around me in my building. So there's really no noise complaints that could be heard. And the only neighbor I really have is Ron, and he owns, the bars and clubs.
About, got a neighbor a couple blocks, a couple of houses away or businesses away. They touched base with the general manager of the Hilton.
No, I didn't. The Hilton's more than 500 feet from the Odyssey nightclub is closer to the Hilton than I am. So basically, I kind of didn't feel the need to.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking this question is because we've had other businesses, people with your business model coming in front of the board and asking the same thing. We're basically saying, hey, well, Second Street is saturated with after hours places. Okay, whether they are liquor, whether it's a restaurant, but it seems to be overly saturated with that type of business. Along with that comes, it becomes somewhat problematic. We all listen, we all read and hear or television and newspapers, so they still make them, about incidents on Second Street. Okay, it doesn't put Harrisburg in good light when that type of information is put out. Okay, people will say, well, Harrisburg's not a safe place to basically go for entertainment. And I do express some concerns there. Like, as you said, that I don't know if there's any residents within 500 feet of you. I think some of those buildings maybe have apartments on top. Okay. Yes, Jacob, if the people live there, or there's rental properties on top that would be within the 500 feet rule.
Yes, there is properties, multiple multifamily dwellings within 500 feet. I believe the closest is about around 120, 150 feet or approximately.
Right. That's our rules basically say, hey, no more if it's in a residential area. No, you don't get a bite of that apple. Okay. Security. There's some concerns here, and I'm going to express these concerns. How do you plan on handling security, even if it's a private club?
I have a buddy, Craig Evans. He owns a Spartan security company with over 55 men, male and females. He basically, I'm signing a contract with him, so there will be probably around six to 10 security guards. Roaming the building, roaming the areas of everything. On the application itself, I put some of the equipment that we're going to be using. We're doing a walkthrough metal detector, kind of like the airport, stuff like that, because we want our members to feel secure. And downtown basically there's a lot of fist fights, a lot of violence, stuff like that. But my biggest cue is stopping the violence with a membership, with a place of membership, because everyone's going to know each other. We're going to be like family in there.
Have you reached out and talked to anybody at the police department?
Yes.
Community relationships people?
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
I spoke with Commissioner Carter about it. He was, he kind of put it in Wanda's on her desk about it all, but he understood what I was trying to do, and he thinks that the city needs it. And also, I forget his name, but I spoke with the chief as well.
Deputy Chief Swartson, I think.
Deputy Chief Swartson, he said he would be enlightened to go over some things with me, and he would be happy for the business.
That's all I have for right now.
Thank you, boss.
Okay.
I want to go back to the not having a liquor license, not being BYOB, but can someone explain to me why a catering company? And I'm looking more towards the lawyers in the room, and explain the difference between the liquor license and a caterer coming in and being able to.
So
So under Pennsylvania law for liquor, under the LCB, there are provisions where a caterer can have an off-site license that they can use. Those have restrictions on them for how often they can be used, how many times a year they can be used. I think the number is either 50 or 52 times for everything they do. And this came up at planning because to be open 4 nights a week or 3 nights a week means you would have to have contracts that you became their exclusive customer for at least 3 or 4 different entities for them to use their license, or you would need many more people with an off-site catering license to continue the operation, which is a business design I've never heard of. And I will just say, I voiced some of these concerns at planning, and they added a 1 p.m. closing time to be done, but we're dealing with membership-only club designs who are operating around the city. That is the model that they're touting, which are not membership only. They're paying at the doors. They have literally armed guards at the doors for facilities around the city, which the city's law bureau, police bureau, fire bureau, zoning bureau, tax bureau, and others are all dealing with every single week for the last year and a half. And I don't know the applicant. I'm not saying that's what the applicant has, but it is the exact model that is being touted, where I will say at least he is coming forward for licensing and applications, which most of them don't bother. They just set up shop. It's a cash business and they come and they go. One has probably moved to 4 locations in a year and a half. And that membership model is a concern because membership models under state and federal law often have some obligations about who their members are, reporting their members, identifying their members, because they have to be a certain category under the IRS code. None of those details are in front of this board because they're not in this plan that's attached to the application. And I am not saying that the applicant is trying to not do all that. I'm just saying there's not enough in front of me to know, and that is a concern. To comply, it's a fairly sophisticated process when you sort of venture off into a new business design that still has compliance issues with it, and it's unclear what the compliance will be to get through the hoops to operate. That is a real concern to the city across the board for all of these clubs. So.
Go ahead. Yep. One more question. The building you're going to occupy, I've been in and out of that building many times getting newspapers or something. What do you see as the total number of occupants at any given time?
It's 3 stories, 6,700 square feet. We're only operating right now on the first floor. To renovations, we're basically dealing with some people getting some things together. And right now we're only concerned about the first floor because of the fact of renovations. And, all the contractors are tied up with, they're months out. So in order for me to do anything, I have to start small. So they're only, I only have enough workers to get a contract underneath the city for the first floor for now, but the application is for the building.
But yeah, when I say occupancy, how many customers you expect or members you expect to be there?
At least
on an average day.
I'm thinking probably between 100 and 200 through the entire day. That's from open to close, in and out faces. That's not at once.
I'm just trying to think of the dimensions. 100 people in that dimension. That's going to be that's somewhat crowded. Okay.
It's really deep. I was going to say it's really, really deep. It's
before the internet.
It's really deep. It's kind of narrow in the front where the register was, but it really, really deepens out as you go back to the building.
Thank you.
I see in here, under services, you have raffle prizes and drawn ticket entry. Have you got your
Yes.
small games of chance license from the county?
That's what's next after this approval is getting all that, getting all my certificates and everything done, my permits and everything done. I just basically want to bring something good to the community. You know, I want the older citizens to come down and play bingo during the week. I was thinking about doing possible, like a gospel night on Wednesdays where they do maybe, you know, something with the Bible. Also like renting it out. Like, I was speaking with Wanda. She said that they have a lot of things that go on, that they could use a space to be able to have meetings, and stuff like that as well for, you know, the public, you know, for, to be a public figure on Second Street would be good. That's why, Stop the Violence is my main cue, because I know what it is for me to ask you guys for this approval, and what it's going to need. But I'm just letting you know, I'm willing, I'm young and I'm ambitious and I want to do it the right way. And I know, you guys seen a lot of people do it the wrong way, but I don't want to be another one of those statistics.
Um, Do you have any thought about that constraint? Like if they're only, if a caterer is only able to use a license so many times, right? That will consume four nights. Or for the dance hall, actually Monday through Saturday. Do you have any plan?
I basically plan on, getting the employers or the companies, getting a list of scheduled calendar dates to turn into the city as well, be ahead of time on the catering, the company, the time, the schedule, you know, giving you my entire schedule up front on who's going to be catering, name, the company, you know, all the liability, everything like that.
Right, but I guess my question, apart from this schedule, you have way you strategize, mapping out who's managing that consumption, right? Because if it's something where it almost sounds like you would need at least the 3 or 4 vendors, you know, throughout the year to cover that number of nights that you would need.
I have four on hand. I just have yet to put them on a date or schedule, or because I take it one step at a time. You know, I jumped the gun a lot and took off too much that I can chew before, and I ended up choking. So I took a step back, get through the hearings, get through the approvals, and then take that step forward. Work with Denise Hill and stuff like that on getting the proper things that I need done in the right areas. Have it done, so I don't kind of get confused up front.
Question, because a lot of the concerns was around liquor license, alcohol consumption. Initially, you're saying that is not going to be your business model here.
Yes, alcohol is not going to be the business model. We also have food. The planning commission's wanting me to get a sidewalk usage permit. I also want to take that on because I plan on doing like a Caribbean smoked grill theme outside with rice and veggies, stuff like that for also the members as well.
I don't know if I can ask this question, but I'm going to try, and you guys interrupt me if it's improper. So, okay, we say, okay, fine, grant you your business, granted. Okay, 3 years from now, your business is thriving, you apply for a license, liquor license. It's granted. That defeats the purpose of the objections that were put into this. But it's too late. The train's already left the station at that point in time. I don't want this back, my question is, will you, with approval, will you back into this later on, a little bit further down the road? It's my question.
Jacob can correct me, but I think actually the recommendation is for them to have a liquor license if they're going to use this model. Because that becomes with certain restrictions and liabilities. And their applicants saying the economics of that aren't going to work.
Yeah, and that condition is that any alcohol being served needs to be attached to a liquor license, whether it's from the applicant or from the caterer. But I think your question you're asking is if he gets approval and then he gets a liquor license, he's still going to have these conditions here, such as closing at 1 a.m. So that's something I'm not sure the legal answer to that.
We might have to come back for an application for a modified use and if business is prospering, you may want a modified use of the facility. And this board and the planning commission has had the same facility when they mix and change their uses, come back to the boards. I mean, that is part of historically what's occurred.
I'm going to open up the floor to the audience. For anybody who has anything legally relevant, please come to the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, Board. My name is Patrick Shaw, SHULL. I'm the Director of Safety, Security, and Risk Assessment for Harristown Corporation, and my home residence is in Newport, Pennsylvania. Harristown, along with the other ones in the letters you received, are in opposition of the proposed purpose of this facility. I can only speak to the ones that we've had experience with in the past, not what Mr. Detweiler is proposing right now. But in our previous experiences, we had a significant impact on our employees and our residents downtown. This included parking and vehicle traffic issues. It included fights, violence on the street, and also included shootings. All this activity we captured on our surveillance system, and we worked with authorities of Harrisburg to try and get that reduced and to eliminate that risk and that problem. We have well over 100 residents between Mary Street and Pine Street. Along with, we have employees that do security, maintenance, and environmental services on a 24/7 basis. And they're traveling in those in the Second Street corridor, and also they live. We have employee housing also downtown that they're not too far away from. The concerns that we have is this adds no value to the downtown environment. In our opinion, establishments that we've dealt with in the past have really increased the risk. It's kind of frightening when you hear from a tenant or from an employee that they have to run for cover during an outbreak of event. These other establishments I'm referring to had armed security, and they had a control at the door, and still violence broke out, and it was significant. And when you think about that, that puts quite a burden on the city of the police, EMS, and also the fire department. And when you look at the video, emergency responders have to swarm to the area. You have patrons, residents, employees fleeing from the area, and you have people right underneath our security cameras firing weapons at each other. So it's very real, it's very significant, has an extreme impact when that type of activity occurs. The city of Harrisburg and the businesses listed in the letters have worked diligently to improve the brand and reduce brand damage downtown Harrisburg, and to revitalize the economy and make it a safe place to live, work, and play. And we hope that will continue. We feel that these type of establishments will hinder that and have a significant impact in the future. That's why we are in opposition. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, everyone, my name is Ron Camianca. I own several businesses on Second Street. My concerns are with the use of the catering permit. In the application, the applicant had unofficial statutes from Westlaw. So I called directly down to LCB, the Chief Counsel's office. And here's the information I got. PLCB off catering premise permits allow licensee, not the applicant, to conduct a catered function. Running a nightclub is not a catered function per the LCB. It was intended, it's never intended for consecutive or lateral days, meaning you can't book somebody every Saturday or for a whole week. It's intended for weddings, picnics, class reunions, etc., where a specific number of people excuse me, gather at a specific time for a specific reason, not when people happen to show up, even though they are members. The person from the council's office said that this is a flagrant abuse of the catering, of the off-premise catering permit, and that anyone applying for it would be dealt with, and that would be the actual caterers. It's an unlawful attempt to circumvent getting a liquor license. An off-premise catering permit is not intended to be a means to operate a second business, which basically that's what the applicant's trying to do. I support him having an events venue there. I think it's fantastic. But as soon as you cross into the nightclub, it has to be done legally. And the legal way to do it is to get a liquor license and operate. The proposal, the way he says it, is completely illegal. Could not allow it. They wouldn't issue permits for it. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the audience here?
So can I speak since I'm really quick?
Yes, you can.
So basically, with Jacob, he basically had to put it into the nightclub, I guess in the bubble of a nightclub. But what it is going to be is it's an event, DEG events, which is a entertainment. He generates entertainment events, weddings and stuff like that. So basically, it's less of a nightclub. There's not going to be 24/7 dancing, stuff like that. It's more of a lounge. There's tables, chairs, food, drinks, stuff like that. It's not more of a only standing, only dancing and music type of thing. So it's kind of, I guess, for the amount of people that would be there has to be under the guidelines of a nightclub, but it also isn't going to be just, it's not just a DJ and people dancing. There's food, drinks, and events, bingo, stuff like that. That's also going to be. Then on the second floor, we're also doing the CDL mentorship to get people in their work release centers on 17th Street and out on Allentown Boulevard also to participate to get them off the road and into a truck. So there's more than just saying it's a nightclub. It's not going to be operated as a nightclub. More of like a lounge dance hall.
And just to respond to that, just in review of the zoning code and looking at how we define dance hall nightclubs in relation to other uses, sort of from the business plan, that's what I've made that determination as it most closely aligning to, as opposed to actually the similar application, not similar, but the application earlier for an event space for the not use specifically prohibited, where that was more very clearly alcohol wasn't involved. The hours of operation were very different. So that was that determination as a zoning officer to put, as the applicant said, into that bubble essentially of how it's defined.
Okay, we're going to take a quick recess for council. Okay, we're back.
Bless you.
All right, any other questions? Being none. All right, and I will make a motion to deny. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Phipps. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Discussion, business plan. Should look at it.
Okay.
Business. Basically come to us.
Yeah, no, just to add on to that, yeah, I would say look at the business model and then even looking at the operability with the whole thing with the liquor license, which I know was discussed a lot. I think that will have a big effect on how you would operate, you know, if you would get food or whatever your
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion to deny is passed. All right, with that being the last,
That's a good question. For all the good things you're trying to do.
with that being the last thing on the agenda tonight, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hobbs. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night, everyone.